being here. We know that it's an exciting week. This Cincinnati-Xavier rivalry is something that's been important to this university, I think to the city for a really long time. Of course, having been in it as a player, a GA, an assistant coach, and a head coach, I am pleased that it still exists. A lot of things kind of go away, as years and even decades go by. But I love what this game means in terms of basketball in the city, and we're excited to play in this game on Sunday.
Questions for Coach?
What were your emotions like last year? Not being a player and being a coach instead, and kind of looking in on the rivalry from a different perspective.
Yeah, it's always interesting, and I feel like I have to tell this story because Lori Purtle was so amazing in so many different ways. It's such a motivator, and every time we went to Xavier, she would pull this box score from the previous time we were there out of the ceiling. And I know now as a coach that it didn't stay up there. Right, she put it up there when we got there, but to me, it took me back to that place, just where you realize how important bragging rights can be, and it's important in recruiting. And when I'm a head coach standing here, I just think that I have to honor all the players, all the games before this year and the year before, and get excited about it and give people in our team to understand how important it is. So I don't know that much has changed, except I feel a lot more responsible because I wasn't really a great player per se. So I have more to do with whether we win or not now than I did when I was playing in the game.
Do you get that conversation around town a lot when you run into fans of, hey, hope you have a good season, but also make sure you beat X?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that that's the fun part. Again, there's obviously no hard, real feelings, right, between coaching staffs and universities. Not and for us, like, I love that Billy has that job. I love that she's having an opportunity to build over there at Xavier. Her and her staff is working really hard. I know quite a few of them. So we'll shake hands, of course, and then we'll go to battle for 40 minutes, and then we'll shake hands and cheer for each other for the rest of the year.
You have a pretty unique record in this series. Would you like to state that? And how proud are you of that?
Yeah, I'm proud of it because I think it just represents all the amazing teams that I have been on and that I've coached. I have not been a part of any team in this rivalry where we ended up with less points than Xavier at the buzzer. And I think probability sometimes makes you just a little nervous every once in a while. But I do think that we're both going to be really competitive, and we try not to talk about it to jinx it. But my participation in this game, no, I've never been on the losing side of it 10 times. So we're going to try to keep that going.
Not to dig up old wounds, but you had a lead against Seton Hall earlier this year. They ended up coming back and winning, but you've rattled off your 3-1 since. What did you see from your team in terms of a response from that game, and just what was the message after the game to motivate them?
No, I think old wounds are important because it keeps fresh what people can do to you in order to take a game away from you. And I think that that's what happened. I don't think we gave it away. I think Seton Hall took it. And I think them being really aggressive in their press opened up some even older wounds of us not taking care of the ball against presses. And we went to work again on it in practice and made sure that every rotation had some confidence in it. Because I think a lot of the time lineups play a big factor in that, and who's on the floor at certain times and the amount of pressure that's put on people. And I think we're better because of that game, because I think people were able to see where they can step up differently, myself included. Like I talked about calling timeouts at different times during that 4-minute period to maybe bail us out and help us a little bit and settle us down. So I think even I've been better, since that Seton Hall game. So I anticipate that when we run into that type of pressure, we'll be able to handle it a lot better. But ultimately just valuing every possession and not putting ourselves in a position to turn the ball over at the end of the game.
In the day and age where NIL, transfer portal, you constantly have different rosters year to year. You never know what you're going to have for the most part. How do you go about driving home the importance of this game to your team each year?
I think me being a Bearcat, Jillian Hayes having been here for 5 years is the start of it. And then we have a tremendous staff, and she has tremendous teammates that understand, when you have people that bleed this red and black, then it's always important. Any game is important, but particularly when you have a crosstown rivalry, that it's not something you want to live year to year and not have that trophy in your office. And I think that when people are bought into you, even though it may not be something they're used to, then they play that game really hard for you and they coach that game really hard for you.
Jillian averaging nearly 20 points per game right now. First part of the question, is she playing the best basketball you think of her career? And second part, what can she do to elevate to an even higher level?
Yeah, I think so. I think she would admit and be very proud of the fact that she's playing her best basketball. She spends a lot of time in the gym perfecting her craft. She watches a lot of film. She's determined to leave this being the best season that she's had at Cincinnati, of course, for herself, but for her team and for us. And if you ask her, she'll say, yeah, I just show up every day to play hard for my teammates. And she gives us a lot of credit, but ultimately it's her that is just determined to be really good. I think that what we're going to see from her, though, is when people's defense is geared towards her, like at Western Illinois, where she, for the first time all season, didn't shoot the ball great, but mind you, still had 10 rebounds, still defended, and did some really awesome things, is preparing for double teams, for what happens when you reverse pivot and people crowd you. So early in our non-conference, we were intentional about scheduling people that were really good coaches that were going to come with game plans so that we could prepare in a way that when we got into conference, it wouldn't be the first time we saw it. So I think that that's what you're going to see is a great bounce back from her as well.
With the rivalry being so intense, are you doing anything different this week just so the team isn't getting too high or too low? Because the game is a game of runs, of course, but just are you doing anything different this week?
Yeah, last year we just practiced and took some time off because it was finals week. We still took time off to make sure they could focus academically, but we did scrimmage today with officials. That way we didn't have this 9-day gap. So I felt like last year we came out pretty slow, and at some point I remember during the game, the coaches are telling me we got to play faster. And I'm hoping that us changing that this year will allow us to go into the game with the pace that we want the game to play at.
We asked Coach West the same question earlier, just what's your thoughts having a whole week to prepare for this matchup? Obviously, coaches would like to have a game in between that week, but just what's your thoughts on the bye week heading into Xavier?
Yeah, it probably gives me more angst, not just because of us, but whatever it is that they're over there changing and tweaking. We take a lot of pride in our scouting and preparation, and you watch these games, you think you have a handle, and then they come out and they do something completely different because they've also been off and been practicing. So I think coaches do one or two things. You either hone in on what you're already doing and get better at that, or you are in a space where you tweak some things. And I think that Wes and I agree, this is a huge game. But when you're playing in the Big 12, we have a lot of huge games. And are you really going to change your game plan and what you do so much for this one game and expose those things before you get into Big 12 play? So I think that there's a lot there. And I think for Xavier, it's the same thing. They have really big games in their conference as well. So this game is huge and it means a lot, but we also have a lot of games to play afterwards.
There's a lot of reasons Dee Alexander came here. Is this one?
I think so. Dee Alexander, one thing everyone knows about her is she loves this city. Again, that she's like Jillian Hayes. And Jill could have gone a lot of places. Dee could have gone a lot of places, but there's something special here in the city. And I think being at UC, she knows that this rivalry for someone who does community service, who runs camps, who does things in the community here, being here and being able to play in this game and continuing to give back and to share her talents with us in this place instead of taking them somewhere else is always going to be something that we all respect about her.
Tanea Hilton's averaging 14.8 points per game. How have you seen her kind of hit the ground running since getting to UC, and is she maybe even exceeding expectations of what you were looking forward to from her?
We felt like we did a great job evaluating her from the portal, just the film and what we thought she was capable of doing. And every team, every makeup is different. And I think that where she came from, her role was limited. They had a lot of really, really good players. And so what we offered her here was an opportunity. Everyone knew that we needed a point guard, somebody who could come in and play 30-plus minutes. And to say that she exceeded expectations would probably be inaccurate, but we're really happy that she met them. And I think that every week, the more and more comfortable she gets, the more that we're going to see from her. She's a really good three-point shooter. She hasn't quite shown that yet. She's really hesitant sometimes about the decision-making is, should I be distributing and creating for other people, or is it okay for me to call my own number? And I think that we're going to see her call her own number here in the upcoming weeks.
How much easier do you sleep at night knowing you've got somebody that can get you 20 and 10 pretty much on any given performance?
Yeah, you sleep great. Well, because when you're talking about Jill in that 20 and 10, it's so consistent. Like you said, like you know what you're gonna get from her. And sometimes the ball won't go in, and sometimes people are gonna use two people to box her out, and it's gonna make it tough for her. But one thing you know she's not gonna do is quit. She is relentless. She is tenacious. She has team goals, individual goals, and she seeks them out every possession and every practice, and that's why she's so prepared come game time.
Reagan Jackson coming off a 29-point performance. Are you kind of seeing her get more comfortable in that role off the ball?
I think so, and I think that that's her natural position. I think that same thing, we have a team full of really good kids, and the last thing they want to be viewed as or seen as is ball hogs, or having the caring more about what they do individually than collectively. And so what we keep telling them is that if we play at this great pace, everyone can get as many shots, as many rebounds, and touch the ball in transition, and everybody can be happy. And I think that that's really what we're working through. Was Reagan took a back seat because she's like, Tanae is here, Tanae is really good, let's see what she can do, and then I'll just fill in. And then you have moments like Western Illinois where she comes in with a completely different mentality. Feet are set, she's confident, and then she starts knocking down shots, and it becomes a lot easier for us to come away with the win.
120 points combined in the two losses, obviously a lot higher scoring output, and your guys' 6 wins this year. Is there anything offensively that stood out from the 2 L's so far that you guys can continue working on and carry into conference play in a couple weeks?
I think so. Part of what happened against Florida Gulf Coast was when you have Tanae and Chloe in foul trouble, it left Ari to be our point guard, and she'll jokingly, seriously say that is not the space I want to be in like a year ago. But I thought she did a pretty good job, and I thought the team stepped up and we did a great job defensively, holding Florida Gulf Coast to 19 points and only 2 made threes in the first half was really good. I think we got in that second half and lost our discipline a little bit. But I'm with you. I think we were good enough defensively. Scoring-wise, I think it just hurt us not having Tanae and Chloe on the floor. They can create for themselves and other people. They get downhill. They draw fouls. And us missing that component in the first half, I think, had a lot to do with it.
Any other questions for Coach? Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, I appreciate
Good
y'all.
luck.